Namaste. Hello and a warm welcome. Welcome to Akankssha's YouTube channel Multidimensional Soul and this audiobooks and talk series dedicated to Akankssha's son and spirit guide Arnav. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, do subscribe, like and share this knowledge and wisdom. Do share your experiences in the comments. What resonates with you the most? What insights do you receive from these teachings? Let's keep this energy of knowledge and wisdom flowing as the energy loves to move, and this is an energy exchange. Business, balance, and inner peace. Restoring equilibrium to the work week. In the 1920s, American industrialist Henry Ford introduced the idea of a 5-day work week. The proposal, heartily endorsed by Paramahansa, brought forth the response in this article. The word holiday sprang from two words, holy day. A holy day should be a time for introspective thinking and for man to nurture his sacred soul qualities. One of the 10 commandments is, remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy, a day of rest and spiritual renewal. Christians observe the Sabbath on Sunday, a day for basking in the sunlight of wisdom. The Hindus reserve a number of days in the year for spiritual purposes. Easter, Thanksgiving, and Christmas correspond to some of the sacred days of the Hindus. The Durga Puja festival is as widely observed in India as is Christmas in the West. Man is a spiritual and a material being. He should develop himself spiritually by inner discipline, and become materially efficient by developing his business faculties. Primitive man kept all his mental faculties busy satisfying the needs of the material life. His time was spent in hunting, eating, and sleeping. Modern man tries scientifically to meet the present material conditions of life. What primitive man did unmethodically, modern man does methodically. This method in modern man's efforts for material success has indirectly improved his inner faculties. The masters of India counseled direct development of the inner faculties, such as willpower to fight temptation, feeling for serving fellow beings, and intuition for directly realizing truth. Crime and violence are the bitter fruits of an imbalanced civilization. If making money to secure material comforts is necessary for man, then making happiness is supremely necessary. Possession of material riches without inner peace is like dying of thirst while bathing in a lake. People crave different things, money, or fame, or spirituality, as a result of early habits and specific environmental influences. That is why the people of both the East and the West lead one-sided lives. The East is generally more spiritually inclined and the West more materially inclined. But we cannot live happily by spiritual doctrines only or by riches only. To bring a balance into the lives of men of East and West, both should adopt a method of developing an equilibrated life. People in general spend 6 days of the week in making money, and even the 7th in thinking about it, but they spend hardly any time on self-development. One reason the West has so much crime, so many murders and robberies in spite of its developed civilization, is that people are too busy securing the commodities of material comfort and have no time to reflect on the practical value of following moral and spiritual principles. If material poverty is to be avoided, spiritual poverty is to be abhorred, for the latter is the underlying cause of all human suffering. A practical spiritual man is a happy man, and only a happy man is a successful man. 100% material prosperity among the inhabitants of a city will not prevent murders and crime. Following the universal principles of mutual service, spontaneous cooperation, love for the spiritual life, and disciplining the human sense cravings is wholly necessary for the harmonious, happy, healthy, prosperous life of any community. Official records annually show that almost $1 billion are stolen by young men and women ranging in age from 15 to 30. We have the New York newspapers report that 400,000 more meals were served in the jails this year than last year. Why is all this? Because the ordinary man's attention is not yet fixed on the vital problems of the art of living. Why not use some of the money spent for erecting and maintaining jails to create how-to-live schools, which will prevent children from becoming criminals? Criminal offenders grown worse in jails are let loose in healthy society for further spread of the bacteria of crime. Most persons will say, "Oh, I am too busy with my business to think about the art of living." We all know about that. Someday we will come to it, but what we are interested in right now is money. But what purpose would money serve if one succeeds in making millions at the cost of a complete nervous breakdown and loss of poise and happiness? Spiritualizing ambition with the ideal of service. Since God has given us hunger, and since we have a physical body to look after, we must have money, and we should earn it honestly and scientifically, by serving the right needs of our fellow beings. Business life need not be a material life. Business ambition can be spiritualized. Business is nothing but serving others materially in the best possible way. Those stores that start out with the idea of only making money are readily recognized as commercial money-making dens. But stores that concentrate on serving customers with the best articles at the minimum cost will succeed and will also advance the moral development of the world. I have never forgotten the remark of a fine salesman in a large shop where I was selecting an overcoat for myself. "Sir," he said, "I am not trying just to sell you something, I am trying to find out exactly what you need." He did not try to sell me the most expensive overcoat, he showed me a less expensive one that exactly suited me in every way. I was pleased to get what I needed at a reasonable price. Thus he secured in me a permanent customer for his company. People should spiritualize their business ambitions by starting out with the idea of serving the proper needs of their fellow beings. Not only should man make money by serving, and thereby get something for himself in return, but should also work for the sake of acquiring money to use in creating institutions that will serve public needs. When one has made a great deal of money, and simultaneously helped his workers and associates to become more prosperous, and then uses his wealth for helping others to help themselves, that is spiritualizing ambition. Wealthy parents who leave too much money for their children choke the evolutional development of self-created, self-earned success and happiness in their offspring. Even the brainy man must exercise ambition, or he does injustice to himself by crippling his faculties. By injuring himself he sets a bad example and thus hinders the progress of humanity. That is why I agree with Mr. Henry Ford in helping people to help themselves, and not in humiliating, slave-breeding charity. It is only by having ambition and crowning it with the ideal of service that materially ambitious people will find a spiritual reason for making money. A balance of Oriental and Occidental traits is needed. Oriental peoples have, as a rule, been spiritually inclined, taking life philosophically and cultivating a natural tendency toward contemplation. Of course, many Orientals have used their leisure for indulging in laziness instead of working for spiritual realization, but on the whole, they have an awakened spiritual perception. Our Western brothers have devoted their time predominantly to developing the material and intellectual sides of life. But they are often too busy even to enjoy the fruits of their labor, or to know the taste of peace, relaxation, and the bliss of meditation. They become enslaved by less important engagements and forget their highest engagement with the blissful ideal life of God contact. Because of the extensive use of machinery, Westerners have this advantage over their Eastern brethren: they can use the time thus saved to advance more in the deeper studies of life. Business activities and money are meant for the comfort and betterment of man. He should not allow blind greed for them to rob him of his happiness and the achievement of higher goals. 6 full days and nights of machine-like existence, and part of one day, Sunday, for the cultivation of one's inner self, is not a balanced way of life. The week should be allotted to work, amusement, and spiritual culture, 5 days for money-making, 1 day for rest and amusement, and at least 1 day for introspection and inner realization. In the Western world, life is altogether too fast. The Orient tends to go to the other extreme. A balance needs to be struck. Every man must have some free time to find himself. 1 day a week, Sunday, is not enough, because it is his only holiday and he wants it for rest and is too tired to meditate. With a 5-day working week, as proposed by Henry Ford, people could use Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday for getting away from the noisy city environment, and thus increase their longevity. The Chicago chief of police reported a study that says man's longevity could be increased by 11 years if the city noises were cut out and man's nervous system calmed down thereby. Almost every family in America can afford an automobile of some kind, and with it they can get out of the cities on weekends and refresh themselves in the peaceful retreats of nature, living the double life of a hermit in the woods and a warrior in the field of worldly activity. Learn the art of living rightly. Since ultimate wisdom, knowing everything that can be known by the maximum use of human reason, is the human goal, then why not learn the art of living rightly? People lose their balance and suffer from money madness and business mania only because they never had the opportunity of culturing habits of a balanced life. It is not our passing thoughts or brilliant ideas but our everyday habits that control our lives. There are some very conscientious businessmen who make millions without being irregular or nervous, but there are others who become so engrossed in making money that they cannot think of anything else and do not wake up from their obsession until something terrible happens to them, as sickness or loss of all happiness. We must begin with the children as well as with the adults. The plastic mind of the child can be molded into any shape with the cooperation of self-disciplined, reformed adults. Desired habits can easily be created in children because the will to perform is mostly free except for a few innate tendencies. Adults have to battle and expel old habits in order to lodge new good ones. But all habits, whether in children or adults, must be cultivated through the medium of spontaneous willingness. In training children in a balanced life or in habits of paying equal attention to the earning of money and to the acquisition of spiritual happiness, the time and method of training has to be considered. Many psychologists say that the later periods of life are but the repetitions of the training one received between the ages of 2 to 10 or 15. Spiritual sermons inspire the minds of children to better action, but that is all. Actual practical discipline is necessary for roasting the seeds of past life prenatal habits lodged in the subconscious and superconscious minds. This can only be done by directing inwardly the cauterizing power of the electricity of concentration. Children ought to be brought up with a spiritual ambition to make money only for the sake of service. Modern children are mostly reared in a wrong atmosphere where money-making is the goal, so they try to get rich quick, even by the hold-up method. Their reason argues that if making money by any means is the goal, then why shouldn't hold-up methods prevail? It lies in the hands of today's adults to uplift the citizens of tomorrow by educating the children into a balanced life. As long as the adults will remain intoxicated with a one-sided material life, so long will the children follow that example and their hopes will remain unfulfilled. To save the future of the world by saving the children, the modern adult must wake up and cultivate a balanced life of spiritual as well as material habits. Leading a balanced life. Many heads of concerns manage to work only 5 days a week from 9 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon and generally take Saturdays and Sundays off. They have some poise, more home life, but they spend most of their free time in playing golf and going dancing to the movies, instead of giving some time to spiritual culture. In order to lead a balanced life, adults must educate themselves to realize that business ambitions should be only for making ourselves and others happy. Without this ideal, overstrenuous business activity produces nervousness, lack of harmonious social qualities, miserliness, greed, and disrespect for all good principles. By realizing the true purpose of business activity, service for the benefit of others as well as oneself, life can be really happy. I think Mr. Henry Ford has inaugurated a new era in spiritualizing business life by proposing a 5-day work week. The Sabbath was made for man, and not man for the Sabbath, therefore the Son of Man is Lord also of the Sabbath. Jesus wanted people to have Sundays as the Sun's Day, or Wisdom's Day, to culture soul knowledge, but when people are so busy all week, they want Sundays for relaxation and amusement, instead of giving it to God and introspection. The clergymen and priests who are opposed to having movies and diversions on Sundays ought to sympathize and cooperate with Henry Ford's plan. The hard-working man could utilize Saturday for relaxation, gardening, wholesome amusement, then he would feel free and glad to use Sunday wholly and solely for attending religious services and for spiritual self-discipline through practicing the techniques of concentration and meditation for attaining inner peace and God communion. I know many prominent, intelligent businessmen who in their heart of hearts are discontented and are craving for God and wisdom, but they are helplessly carried away by their work habits and by too many social engagements. Their highest engagement with God, truth, higher studies, and more home life is sacrificed for money-making or useless socializing. So it is extremely necessary that truth-loving real-world patriots should cooperate for making Saturday a day for amusement and relaxation, and Sunday a day exclusively for culturing habits of meditation, association with good persons, good principles, and the highest good, God bliss within. As certain training is needed for engaging in the art of war, so does our engagement in battling with active life. Untrained warriors are soon killed on the battlefield, so also persons untrained in the art of preserving their inner peace are quickly riddled by the bullets of worry and restlessness in active life. Man's great need is to find more time to enjoy nature, to simplify his life and his imaginary necessities, to enjoy the true needs of his existence, to learn to know his children and friends better, and most of all, to know himself and the God who made him. Now we are going to read some footnotes which are important. For the spiritually sincere and eager, Paramahansa Yoganandaji encouraged a routine of morning and evening meditation every day, before and after one's active duties, and one day a week devoted to silence, introspection, spiritual study, and a period of meditation of at least 4 hours or longer. 65 years after Paramahansa Yogananda's publication of this article, a 1991 study by Harvard economist Juliet B. Shore showed that the principles advocated by Paramahansaji are as timely now as they were in the 1920s. Professor Shore discovered that the average American now works the equivalent of a whole month more per year than did his or her counterpart in 1970. Modern Americans, she found, are working longer hours than people at any time in history other than the Industrial Revolution, spending even more time on the job than did medieval serfs. Increased efficiency of production can result in either more earnings or more leisure time, states Shore. Ever since Henry Ford and other industrialists revolutionized workforce habits in the first 2 decades of this century, America as a whole has typically opted for the money. Greater income and an exceptionally high standard of living have resulted. Yet, despite most Americans' ability to purchase fancy cars and homes that overflow with sought-after creature comforts, Professor Shore found that they are no happier as a result. As she writes in The Overworked American, The Unexpected Decline of Leisure, New York, Basic Books, 1991, if our desires keep pace with our incomes, getting richer doesn't make us more satisfied. According to a recent review of existing findings, Americans are literally working themselves to death, as jobs contribute to heart disease, hypertension, gastric problems, depression, exhaustion. Studies point to a sleep deficit among Americans, a majority of whom are getting between 60 and 90 minutes less a night than they should for optimum health and performance. Parents are devoting less attention to their children. Stress is on the rise, partly owing to the balancing act of reconciling the demands of work and family life. If we are to have a chance at leisure, Shore concludes, we'll need to resurrect the public debate that ended in the 1920s. End of article. This audio based on the article, Business, Balance, and Inner Peace, by Paramahansa Yogananda is featured in the book, Journey to Self-Realization. This book is part of a series of anthologies of Paramahansa Yogananda's collected talks and essays. Thank you for tuning in and soaking in all the knowledge and sharing it with others. Namaste.
This is a series of audiobooks and insightful lectures brought to you by Akanksshaa, dedicated to exploring timeless wisdom and spiritual teachings. Each recording is generated with love, honoring my journey and my connection with higher guidance, especially in tribute to my son Arnav, who now guides me from beyond. May these words awaken the divine love within you, bring you peace and inspiration on your own path, and may divine light within shine bright. May whatever merit arises from these readings be for the benefit of all sentient beings. Namaste.